We've all been there. It's 2 a.m., you just finished the last page of your book, closed the cover, and now you're wrecked. Or elated, shocked, frustrated, distraught, or maybe a combination of so many emotions you can't put a name to what you're feeling.
But there's an ache in your chest, and all you want to do is turn to someone who knows what you just went through, who you can talk about that favorite scene with, swap theories about the sequel, gush over the hottie your main character landed.
You might try to explain it to your significant other, suggest the book to a colleague, or swap a couple surface-level thoughts with a friend who read it years ago. But there's no one who truly gets it. No one who will tear each moment apart with you, put it all back together, and start the next great read by your side. But what if we told you that now there's someone who will?
I'm Brooke.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Elena.
And we're the High Ladies of the Book Court. Let's read your next favorite book together.
All right, thank you for joining us. This episode will contain Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight spoilers. So if you have not read them both, stop what you're doing, read them, and come back to watch this recap episode. To give you some background on the High Ladies, I read all the books except Assassin's Blade, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash, but Brooke and Elena are reading the series for the first time. So let's start with a quick summary of Throne of Glass. We have teenage assassin Selena Sardothian is offered a deal after a year-long stint in a slave labor prison by Prince Dorian to compete in his father, the King of Adarlan's champion tournament. Win the competition and serve as the king's champion for 4 years, after which Selena can get her freedom. While growing friendships are formed, there are a series of mysterious murders taking down champion candidates one by one. Crown of Midnight takes place 3 months after the events of Throne of Glass, and it jumps right in with Selena as the king's champion, killing every person the king assigns. But we later learn that Selena actually offers them a way out. Leave or I will kill you. Her next assignment is old friend Archer Finn. And then the story takes off. Okay, so what's that?
And then the book.
And then all things happen.
Oh,
right, so we have some recap topics of discussion and questions. And the first off is Selena Sardothian, our teenage assassin. Let's go through first impressions and thoughts on her character development between Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. So whoever wants to take the lead.
I'm trying to remember back to like starting the first book, which was probably like 3 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure right from the start, I was very into Selena. Like she's your typical, just like very capable female protagonist, which I love. But you know, she's also got some stuff that she needs to work through. Like she just got out of prison camp for a year, which she was not supposed to survive. So like the mental anguish of thinking that she was going to die basically every moment, but somehow surviving it, only to be thrown into a situation where she knows that if she doesn't win this tournament, she's getting thrown right back in there. So basically either win the tournament or die. But she handles it all with grace. And yeah, I was immediately in her camp, definitely rooting for her.
Yeah, I feel like I was definitely rooting for her and a fan of her. I remember there were moments where I was like angrily texting the group chat being like, this is unrealistic. She's like 17 and like beating up fully grown men, which is like fine. But then she also like is really great at knowing poisons and really great at archery. It just seemed like she needed a flaw, which I mean, I feel like as the books go on, you like grow to see more of her flaws. Like at the very beginning, and I think in Throne of Glass, the biggest thing was like, oh, she can't run far anymore. Which, like, is fair. Like, that seems realistic that she's been in prison camp and, like, would need to, like, bulk out in terms of, like, her cardio again. But I feel like that first, like, portrayal, I was kind of, like, very suspicious. Like, I hope this isn't a book where, like, we just have a main character that is weirdly powerful compared to all the other characters, which I think hasn't really happened. Like I think we've grown to see more, which is nice.
Yeah, like Selena is supposed to be this very well established, well known, even though no one knows what she looks like, top rated assassin. And I found it very difficult, for me at least, reading Throne of Glass, um, to be believable that she's like this assassin. And we don't really get any information about her background either until I'd say Crown of Midnight.
Yeah, you really just know that like she is the terror of Adelon. Like everyone is very afraid of her, but also like no one has any idea that she's this teenage girl. Like I think they all assume that she's either at least an older female or probably male because sexism. But I don't know if I just chalked it up entirely to everything she'd been through, but it didn't catch me as off guard like how long it took for us to see her prove herself. And I don't know. I really connected with her like throwing up in the bushes after doing a 5K. I was like, yeah, I've been there. Maybe not all the way there, but I've contemplated it. So I was like, yeah, I like the mystique behind her story. And obviously, like if a whole city is super afraid of her, there's got to be a reason. And I was just like ready to find out.
Yeah. It was fun to see her training and like and holding her skill set back a little bit because she knows that she could do better and because she's that good.
Yeah.
She gets about the fact that she has to hold back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, I can't get this bullseye right now. Like, come on, girl. You're okay.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that got me is she was like such a well-known assassin and like at the top of her field, and like that's her character, but then she immediately trusts everyone. Like I feel like she should have like she kind of has trust issues, but like then like she immediately trusts Nehemia, she immediately trusts Archer. She trusts Kale and Dorian fairly quickly. Like I think like she's a little on edge, but like especially Nehemia, I felt like she trusted like really, really quickly. Um and it just felt like to me she should be, not that she wasn't on guard, but that she should be more on guard, especially because there's all that backstory and shade with whatever Hemel, but I can't think of his name.
Yeah. Arabin.
Or he might have gotten her friend killed, which we still don't have context on. Like I feel like we still haven't even gotten the full extent of that backstory and kind of how that went down. But yeah, that was the other thing that kind of caught me, where I was like, "Girl, take a step back. Can you trust these people?" Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Elena. I think that Nehemia, she definitely trusts pretty quickly. But I think that she kind of holds off with Kael and Dorian. Like, even as she's kind of like developing a relationship with Dorian, I feel like she keeps them at arm's length. And like, there are secrets that we don't even know about that, and we don't have to get right into the secrets because we can save that for a little bit later. But like, I would just point out that there are still certain things that she's only told Kael and not even Dorian. She didn't tell Nehemia when she had the chance. So I don't think that she's ever like fully trusting people, but yeah, there were moments where I still was on the fence about Nehemia. Like I loved her, but I was like, we should be more cautious than this. And I was nervous.
Do you think by the end of Crown of Midnight that Selena is a good judge of character?
Our girl's
Elena
not
says
perfect.
no.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's a better judge of character, but I don't know. I still think she has some room to grow.
It feels like if you're an assassin, you should be able to have that skill set, knowing who to trust and
Or at least like be more wary, like err on the side of not trusting versus trusting, which I think that she strikes a balance between the two. And I think that we could just make a case for like Nehemia and her just like connecting on this really tight friend level, that she was just like, okay, I accept you into my life.
Yeah. Or even not just trusting, like sometimes like just as an assassin, you'd think she would be more aware of her surroundings, like that scene where she's singing in Turanian, like at the grave, or ancient Fae. I don't remember a language she shouldn't have known or have been speaking, and she's singing it in like a super public open space at Nehemiah's grave, and Kale sees her and starts like questioning who she is at that point and trying to look into it, which like obviously she's grieving, so like it's not all about thinking, but as an assassin you would think, girl, you know you're not supposed to know these things, like you're clearly not aware of who's around you. If someone other than Kale had heard you, that could have gone much, much worse than it did.
Yeah, instead of it just opening him up to realizing who she really is. But yeah, I agree with you, Elena. I think I like it because of what we were talking about earlier, and it's that she isn't a perfect assassin.
Yeah.
Like, she's still a teenage girl that is going to make mistakes and fall in love with boys and do things that she shouldn't. And she doesn't have all the answers, and she's not perfect. And I like that, now that we're going to start book 3, sort of, she still does have stuff to learn and has a lot of room to grow. And I can't wait to watch her do it.
So, major spoiler, at the end of Crown of Midnight, we find out that she's actually Aelin. Did you guys find any clues to that, or did you see it coming? Like, what was your thoughts when you found that?
Go ahead, Elena.
Well, I know I came from a little bit different perspective because I read the first 2 books like a year ago, and then I stopped because I got so angry at the end of the second book that I essentially looked up where the story went from book 2 and got really mad and then refused to read the rest. But anyway, since I had already gotten through the end of book 2 the first time, I knew she was Aelin this time, so I was kind of looking for those clues. So yeah, they're definitely there, and I noticed them, but I don't remember if at the time when I was reading it the first time I was like, I think she's gonna be the princess. But I have a feeling I was a little bit suspicious because it just when she was orphaned lines up with they make it clear that it lines up with when the city was sacked, and she's she's clearly someone important. So I don't know. That's my thought. So yeah, that's my bad. I don't read what happens in a series.
That's all right. It's
no matter how angry you get.
It's great because I think that it all 3 of us are coming from different places in this series, which is fun. And if this is anyone's first episode and first book that you're reading with us, you may not know that I am entirely anti-spoiler. I sometimes do not even read the summary of a book before I start it. I just go right in. I do not want to know. So I did not get angry at any point and look at summaries. But I will say that I gathered from the beginning of the first book of Throne of Glass that she had power and was probably Fae. They just made a lot of mentions about that right at the beginning when she's traveling to Adarlan to go be part of the championship. So I kind of figured that's where we were going. But I did not guess that she was Aelin until a few chapters before. And now I can't remember what it was specifically, but there was a moment where I was like, oh my God. So I knew I guessed slightly before she told Kale.
I didn't really. I think I had an inkling that it was that Aelin and Selena were the same person. But I don't know. I'm pretty slow about clues, so I could have just rolled with it. I just assumed that they were separate people.
You're just reading for enjoyment, Jamie.
I am. In the moment.
I'm over here with a pen and a notebook. Does this one word mean what I think it does?
Well, why don't we move on to our 2 possible love interests, Prince Dorian and Captain of the Guard Kaal. What are your thoughts on them? And are you specifically leaning on a certain side?
I will say all of book one, I was entirely Dorian. And I know I've mentioned to you guys that I have a hard time where I need to separate which one I would go for and which one I think is right for Selena. But I am definitely Team Dorian. Like, if I was presented both of them at a bar, I would definitely approach Dorian first. But I think for me, I switched over to thinking that Kale was probably a better fit for her during the last fight in Throne of Glass when Selena is basically near death and Kale gets next to that chalk circle that she can't come out of and he can't go in. And they get as close as possible to touching hands. And he's trying so hard to like keep her going and keep her alive. I was like, all right, like you guys definitely have a connection. And Selena wasn't as interested in Dorian as I wanted her to be. Like, I felt like she, just like superficial love, like wanted to have fun. And she breaks up with him at the end of the book to be like, hey, sorry, like I've got to do things for me and I can't be involved with the prince of the guy that I am working for. So I'm going to go. And right, like it was the right call, but all of that together, I'm just like, you are not, like, if she desperately loved him, she would be like, we'll figure out a way to make it work. But she didn't. And to me, that's like, it's not the two of them. So I think it's Kale. And I like through book two, I really liked them. And their issues at the end of book two, I think are entirely fabricated and they need to work out. But that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So they're Kale and Selena's issues and then Nehemiah's death are the reason I looked up what happens in the next book and got angry because I was like, no way Nehemiah is actually dead for real, for real. So I looked that up to be like, is she? And then the answer made me angry. So no spoilers there.
I was going to say, I think you're spoiling it though.
Well, I mean, Nehemia did die, right?
Yeah, Nehemiah did.
At the end of book two, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, we've seen her in the dead realm. Like we've seen her in Dead World. She's definitely dead.
Yeah, she's dead.
Yeah.
So that made me upset, and then just trying to figure out whether or not her and Kale were endgame. I also have feelings on because I reading book two and thinking they were cute, and I can't say anything without.
Well, I think
if you tell us that you really want them to be together and then you were upset when you looked it up, we're gonna know what happened, and then I'm gonna throw a hissy fit.
I just want to say Selena is cute with both of them.
Yeah,
kind of glad she got to spend time with Prince Dorian. But when I was reading Throne of Glass, I did want her to be with Kale. There was something between them. I like the idea of this forbidden love. Like he's the captain of the guard. She's like supposed to be like his enemy as an assassin. Like opposites attract. And then I was really excited when they got together in Crown of Midnight. So
Yeah,
I'm Team Kale.
I like get in that stupid fight because he lied to her that one time.
If I had $5 for every time a Sarah J. Maas character got really upset over someone lying to them and they didn't talk about it before storming off into other rooms, I would have like $15.
It isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened three times.
It's a lot. Anywho. Yeah, I really liked the adorable YA chased spice scenes as well. When it was like, why are you guys coming out of a broom closet together? We all know, but I guess we're not going to get any details.
It was cute and tasteful.
Yes. No, it was very adorable. Like, I think that their relationship is really solid. And I keep analyzing it. Like, I keep going back and I'm like, are they not supposed to be together? But I really think that they are. And I think that they've had this misunderstanding with, like, the lying to each other and now her potentially being the queen of another land while he's either serving the king of the other land or potentially, like, he's supposedly heir to another throne if his dad pulls strings that way. So I realize it's messy, but I'm still rooting for them.
Yeah, I think Brooke, you mentioned a really good theory, and I wrote it down, which was
I was smart
that
at one point. Really?
I've been writing down all your theories to keep track. But one of them was that you thought that Kale, Dorian, and Aelin would all become kings and queens.
I do think so. I mean, I think I see Dorian definitely taking his father's throne. What was that reaction, Elena? Elena just had an amazing brain epiphany. We're gonna go back to that. Yeah, I mean, I totally see Selena, rather than Queen Elena, our Elena, or Selena. So confusing. I see Selena definitely becoming queen of Terrasen. I think that Chaol probably goes back to his homeland and inherits there. Like, I just don't see him as just being the king's guard for the rest of the book. Like, he's got to do something more than that. And I see Dorian taking over for his dad, maybe. He's actually the one that I am the least sure of, because his dad's just awful. But if he did, like, he would definitely do a better job. So I could see it happening. But I could also see him walking away and it being his younger brother.
I was gonna say I'm personally a fan of Holland for king.
Colin for king. No.
Let's go back to the two male leads as individuals. What are your thoughts on them? So we find out that Prince Dorian has some kind of magic, right? Yeah. What do you think of that? In a land that's supposed to have magic mysteriously disappear, or
I'm just
forbidden.
waiting for him to kill his dad. Is that too much to ask for? Like, that's all I'm holding out for at this point.
Is that a theory? You think that Dorian is going to be the one to kill the king?
I don't know if it's so much as a theory as like a desire. I'd be happy if Aelin did it too, but
yeah,
we'll go with Dorian.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact. Oh, sorry, what?
Oh, I was just gonna say, sometimes if I hope really hard and over for a character to die, it sometimes happens. So we could just start right now. Just start speaking it into existence.
True. You did manifest a really big one. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that surprised that he had magic, because, like, his dad made magic go away, so weird. Him and his family members still get magic. That can't believe he's a hypocrite. Wild.
Yeah, I kind of guessed that Dorian was going to have some sort of magic, only because it was said multiple times that, like, his line is directly descended from the Fae Queen, Elena. And I was like, oh, this is definitely coming back. And I didn't know how. But yeah, the minute he hit that wall and he, like, almost broke the wall of the stone castle, I was like, yeah, we're here. Yes. But yeah, no idea how.
That was an amazing scene.
Yeah, it was awesome. But I'm still very confused about the fact that magic is supposed to be gone, but somehow Dorian has it. I don't know how.
Yeah, isn't that? Yeah. Interesting.
Some tough shit the king's doing.
Yeah. And so, what do you guys think about? What was that, Alina?
Yes, you should. Sometimes cursing is the only way.
What do you guys think of Captain of the Guard Chaol as a character? Is he fiercely loyal or what?
Yeah, we love Chaol. Don't love how he's been reacting to Dorian's magic, where he's just like, I'm gonna pretend it doesn't exist and it'll go away. Like, that's not a great way to cope with finding out something about your friend. That's in kind of midnight, right? Like, that's not everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was that a spoiler?
No. I think that he knows about Dorian's magic at the end of book 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't love how he reacts to it there. But yeah, he's loyal. I don't know.
Yeah. Chaol, like, at the end of book 2, I've got feelings about. And then there's Chaol the whole book 1 up to that point in book 2. But yeah, I don't love his reaction to Dorian or Selena at the end of book 2. I get a lot happened. Like, he realized, like, oh, okay, the woman I'm in love with is a fae, is supposed to be queen of the rebel country, has powers, and also my friend has magic, and I am very, he has a lot to deal with. But at the same time, I'm like, you needed to be more for these two most important people in your life. And then just kind of sent one off on a ship for the right reasons. But up until that point, go what, Elena?
I was just gonna add, I love making choices for other people for them because it's what's best for them. That's always a good move.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like a test for Kale, doesn't it?
And he failed it.
I keep wondering, like, could you not have had a 5-minute conversation with her before you were like, I think she should go to Wendelin and kill the king and prince and everyone over there? Like, you couldn't have a 5-minute conversation with her to just be like, hey, is this what you want and helpful? Because I'm trying to be helpful. And she could have been like, no, please do not. But yeah, up until that point, I think that Kale is very well-meaning. He's very well-intentioned and slightly boring, if I can just throw that out there. I'm so sorry,
More
Jamie.
normal.
I don't know if I'm reading
Boring's
too much
a good
fantasy.
word.
Yeah, just like he seems like the placebo. He's like the normal human guy when everybody else is doing stuff. And I'm just like, this is the one that we want to spend the rest of our lives with? Okay, I'm not going to question it. Like, I think that they work really well together, but I was just like, but there's Dorian over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like in book 1, it took him a long time to accept Selena and trust her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's an assassin. She's supposedly, her alias is a jewel thief for the competition.
Yeah, well, the whole reason that it took me so long to even really consider Kale as a love match for her is because the first time that they're together, he like slams her face into a granite floor in front of Dorian. And like, I get now that they were really worried about her because she is very powerful and dangerous, but at the same time, you don't do that to someone. Kale, how did your mother raise you? Poorly, I know, but like, how did your mother raise you?
Right. But didn't he do that in front of the king?
He did it in front of Dorian. It was when they went to go get her from the salt mines from Endomir.
Oh, okay.
She was being cheeky and wouldn't bow to him, so Kale made her bow.
Mm.
That doesn't seem in character.
Mm.
Yeah, one thing that got me about Kale is that he's captain of the guard, which I feel like is a super high prestigious position. And then I forgot if it's book 1 or book 2, he kills someone. It's like, that's the first person I've ever killed. And that always like gets me because I'm like, how did you get to this super high, like important position, but you've never like been in a fight that ended in mortality? It just seems like weird to me.
Yeah. So that was actually the end of book 1. I think he killed Cain, I believe, because Cain was trying to kill Elena. But I agree, Elena, like it's weird that he's the captain and he's never killed anyone.
Yeah. And I think they've alluded to the king gave him his position because he's so dumb trustworthy. Like he's so like, yeah.
Dorian put in a good word for him too. I think it was basically Dorian being like, hey dad, can you hire my best friend? And him being like, can he hold a sword? And I also think that Dorian's dad, the king, probably also wanted to get a hold of the more powerful heir of this, other territory. But yeah, I mean, Kale's really capable. He's very like good at sparring with Selena, like definitely has skills, but I also question that. I'm like, really? This is the first person you've killed? And like how it affected him, because I'm guessing that anytime you kill someone, it probably takes a while to get desensitized to that. But yeah, I was like, really, bud? Wow, good for you.
Yeah. I think it added to his blandness for me. Just the idea like that he wasn't like fully fleshed out and that like this was the first.
Yeah, he's like an adorable puppy, like a very, very well-meaning puppy. But yeah, like if they live happily ever after and like come to their differences, like come to put their differences aside, whatever I'm trying to say, I will be happy about it at this point. But Elena's like,
I just want to say he can't be cuter than Fleetfoot.
no, Fleetfoot is the cutest and is my favorite character, hands down.
Speaking of which, there are so many side characters in between Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight. Is there any of them that is your favorite other than Fleetfoot, and any of that you disliked?
The
Other
answer
than
is
Fleetfoot.
only Fleetfoot.
That's a good answer.
When he was in the portal and you didn't know if like someone was gonna go back and get him, I was almost in tears. I was like,
Oh my God.
absolutely not. Fleetfoot just did the most. We are not leaving him. And I think it's Kale that runs back and gets him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, big points for Kale.
Yeah. Fleetfoot
It's
is
my
definitely number
girlfriend's
one
dog.
character.
I need to go save her.
Yeah.
What are
I
their side characters?
I love Nehemia. Like, I think she's a total badass, which I love. Like, even more than Selena. Like, she really takes Selena under her wing to be like, hey, look, this is how the world works now, and I need you to, like, snap out of it and be a part of this. Which I like. I love how devoted she is to her people. I loved at the end of book one when Selena is about to fight Cain, she hands her staff, like that moment where Nehemia just like gives her staff and lets her fight with it. I was like, oh, I love this. She's great. I don't like that she theoretically orchestrated her own death on purpose. I've got a lot of question marks about that, but yeah.
That's definitely a mystery.
Yeah, other than that, I'm hoping that plot, it's not a plot hole, but that plot confusion gets cleared up at some point.
Yeah. There has to be a reason why she did this.
I hope.
Were you shocked at all that she died?
No. It like the book needed a death. Like there needed to be like the stakes needed to get higher.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me was just that she, set it up herself because it seemed like there were so many other ways to get Selena involved in the like rebellion. You didn't need to go that far, girl.
Yeah, and I don't think it was just like, oh, I'm gonna like let myself get murdered horrifically in order to get my friend to be on the rebellion side. Like we see that scene in like the other slave camp, or is it in Dovir? I think it's the other slave camp.
Oh, hell, yeah.
Yeah, where they like
Is it the
start
sea?
their own. Yeah, they start their own little rebellion when they learn of
Yeah.
So I get that there's like a bigger impact that her death is making, but it's still like very short-sighted to be like, I will now allow myself to be murdered in order to further the cause. It's like that's never the answer. Don't do that. But I
Yeah.
love her.
And in terms of other side characters, I hated Archer. Not a fan. I hate him.
Yeah.
I can't even remember if there was a point where I liked him. I feel like there must have been because they make him pretty likable at the beginning.
Even when he was first introduced, really?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think when he was first introduced, I feel like I must have liked him. I must have been like, "Oh, who's this hot new friend?" But then, looking back, I only have dislike. He's the worst.
What about you, Brooke?
Archer entirely tricked me. I loved him at the beginning. I was like, oh, and not like I would never be with him if he was at the bar. I didn't want him to be a possible love interest or anything, but his like character was just so fresh and fun. Like I loved his like flirtatious style, and I loved that he had a past with Selena, so we like got to see more of what she was like when she was younger through him. And I just liked him. I thought like that he was going to be a cool rebel and that we were going to get to keep him, and then he definitely wasn't. And then I was like, you tricked me, you piece of shit. So now I'm wary. I'm very wary about going into book 3 with new characters and wondering if they also have hidden agendas I can't see.
Mm-hmm. Especially since with the two characters that have betrayed us in some way. Yeah, it is very hard to trust the new characters, which we'll talk about in the next episode. What about Caltaine? What are your thoughts about her?
I don't know what's happening with her, but It's not good. I don't remember if she's missing by the end of book 2 or if that happens early book 3.
So
But
in book 1, she kind of orchestrated
mhm,
betraying Selena,
mhm.
but with Duke Parrington, and Duke Parrington kind of just threw her under the bus and made it seem like it was all her idea. And so now she's like in a prison. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, that all makes sense. And I know she's in the prison for most of book 2, but I know Selena at one point like goes to find her to talk to her, and like she's been taken away around the same time that Roland disappears, and they both had the rings, which means the king's doing something shady with them. I just haven't sussed out what yet.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely some kind of like control-y device, which like the minute people started showing up with the same rings, I got very suspicious very quickly. I was like, those rings are not good. Please be careful. Like even I think I remember telling you guys when KO gave Selena that ring from the party, I was like, Selena, like be careful. You don't know where that's been. But yeah, I don't love Caltaine. I would still entertain a redemption story, but right now I am not a fan of her and don't really care what happens to her. Sorry.
Yeah,
I did start
I
to
don't.
feel. No,
Uh,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I don't see a redemption story coming. I see a death coming and or
Read.
things.
I know all she wanted was to be with Dorian.
Yeah, but like in the grossest way. Stay away from my boy.
I did start to feel bad for her because there was something going on where she was explaining about her headache and being trapped in the prison when it wasn't entirely her fault.
It's those rings, man.
Yeah, I feel like you can't not feel bad for her, especially in book 2 when they like allude to the fact that the guards let the Duke come visit her, which is just
He's
Mm,
gross.
yeah.
Do we agree that he's gross?
Very gross. Can I start hoping for his death?
Is he not dead? Is he dead?
I'm
What
right.
happened to
Dead,
him?
dead.
No, I think he's still alive
He's still
at
alive.
this point.
This
Yeah.
just came with them.
At this point, dead.
Um,
I'll
Does
hope.
he like go with the king somewhere?
No, he's at the end of book 2. He's like colluding with the king about like all of their plans for world domination, basically.
Seems like a good guy.
Yeah, super great.
do you think he could also be behind the black rings? Like, what do you think the black rings are about? And also the demons. Where are the demons coming from?
Isn't he wearing one? I feel like the Duke has a black ring. Maybe not. I thought he did. I could be misremembering because
I could also be misremembering.
we read these a while ago. I mean, I just assumed they were the king's rings that he uses to control people.
Yeah, I just assumed that anyone under the king's kind of like court or whatever has the black ring that he could control.
Did I make up that the rings are probably made from that like stone that they like found out at the end of the second book? Did I just immediately assume that? Is that not true? Did I come up
When you
with a
say
theory?
that, it sounds familiar. Like it could have been like alluded to, or it could be made up.
It was in the like in all of the like research and stuff that Selena was doing with the tower, and when she finally found her way like through the labyrinth underneath the library into the tower, she was like, oh, it's made of that black stone that has some sort of like awful magic power. I just assume the rings are made out of that.
I think that's a good guess. Like if they haven't said it outright, that seems right. In which case, it supports the king doing something shady, and I also think the demons are the king doing something shady. Like there was that man-shaped one, and I think it was pretty explicit that the king and like the duke had summoned him, or like had. I think he used to be. The implication is that he used to be a man, and they did a bunch of tests and like turned him into this demony thing. Anyway, we don't love the king. Anything that is really gross and sus looking, I'm just gonna say was the king. That's
Yeah.
my
That's all the
standing
king.
theory.
No, I fully believe that the king is behind creating weird demon zombies and controlling rings of power to
Yeah.
amass an army that I have to assume he's going to use to take over the whole world.
Yeah. Like my working
That's a good
theory is that
theory.
like Roland and Caltaine are gonna be transformed into some weird monster things with the rings, because I think they make some allusion at some point to that the people with the rings that are like, because Roland talks about having headaches and Caltaine has headaches, and that they had magic in their bloodlines. So he's somehow stripping their magical abilities to use for himself or turning them into monsters. Really cloudy, but just
Yeah,
seems
because
suspicious.
he's making magic disappear somehow. Maybe this is how he's doing it with the rings.
Yeah, or
I
like
thought it had something to do with the giant tower. I thought the giant tower somehow made magic go away.
that's what I assumed too. Giant Black Tower is like an anti-cell tower for magic. It's just like no magic here, no more. And it's just
No
like
service.
yeah, it's emitting anti-magic waves at all times. Yeah, the king is definitely doing some awful stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
I don't remember where the rings came from or like what they were made of. So if I'm making faces, it's because like I don't remember.
They're always
um,
just described as black
So
rings.
your theories could be right, or they could not. I don't know.
We'll find out.
yeah.
We'll find out.
One thing I don't think we've sussed out is what the king's motivations are, other than like not having magic made it easier for him to overrun other territories. So like it is always possible that his motivation is just like the acquisition of a larger kingdom, but I don't know. I just feel like there's something more there that we haven't seen yet.
I would hope that there is, because that's a pretty bland reason, like all by itself. But I think that's part of it. I just think we still haven't learned like what his full plan is. And I really I don't care. I just want him dead. Dead, dead, dead.
Whatever the reason is, Brooke wants him dead.
It's bad. Whatever he's doing is bad, and it shouldn't happen. He wouldn't be able to convince me.
Are you saying you don't see a redemption story for the king?
Dead, 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 dead.
So, what are your theories, and what would you like to see in Book 3, Heir of Fire? Who will Selena or Aelin choose? What do you
I'm
think will happen
concerned.
in Wendland?
I'm concerned because our girl is now on a ship going somewhere else other than where the two men are. And
Mhm.
I don't want her to be with Dorian, but I do want her to work things out with Kaol, or at least like try,
Yeah.
and then give me more material to work with so I can figure out if they're supposed to be together. But right now I'm just like, how long is she going to be away? They need to figure it out. Sad.
I have no comments at this time.
I plead the fifth.
I'm like, well, because at this point I'm halfway through book 3, so I have like way more.
Elena has sprinted ahead and is going for the finish line. That's okay. You can just ask me. I'll tell you at all times who I think she should be with.
Yeah, I don't really care about anything right now other than the kingdom.
Yes.
The king dies. That's what you think will happen in Book 3? The king will die.
I don't think it's going to happen in book 3. I wish it would happen in book 3, but
Yeah.
it seems like there are other priorities so far.
Yeah. So we know that Kael kind of sent her to Wenling, not knowing that she's actually has Fey blood in her, but in her assignment from the king is to actually murder her long lost cousin or something. Is it Galen Ash River?
Galen Ash River. What a
Do you
great
guys have
name.
any theories on that?
There's no way
possible
she's going to
plot?
kill him. There's no way she's going to kill the royal family.
I mean, she hasn't killed any of her
Exactly.
assassins or assigned targets.
Right. She's not going to kill him. I'm excited to see the Fae. Because, I mean, Kaol sends her there because he knows that she's Fae. He just doesn't realize that she's Aelin. So he, like, has the best intentions to be like, run away, go to your people, like, get away from the king, he'll kill you. Not realizing that, like, he's sending her directly to her family. But then also the, like, small caveat that the part of the king's contract with her is that she has to come back from all of her deals. Otherwise, he kills Kaol and then all of Nehemiah's family. So, like, she has to come back. So everything Kaol did was null and void. And I just hope it's not going to cause more problems than it's worth.
My official stance is that Kale is a big dumb idiot. So
Well-intentioned dumb idiot. I think so.
As long
best
as
intentions.
it coincides with his beliefs.
Yes. He is very rigid. I think that is the part
Yeah.
that I have the hardest time with that contributes to the boring, is that he doesn't think creatively. And I see a light. I think we can get there, like, to him thinking creatively.
You think he can change?
Kale
Yeah,
is
I
too
think so
lawful
too.
good.
So lawful good.
Yes.
Like
need a
I
little
feel
more
like Selena's like chaotic neutral and he's just too lawful good.
We'll see. I like them together. I don't want her to be with Dorian. I don't think she deserves Dorian anymore. Stay away from Dorian.
True. That's a hot thing. Dorian can do better.
Dorian can do better. And I like Selena, but I don't, she didn't love him enough.
No, she didn't. I think he deserves better.
Yeah. I'm excited to hopefully find out who Dorian is going to be with, because that's my current hope, is that he finds somebody else. Hopefully Selena and Kaol like work on whatever they're doing. But I don't
Their
know how they're
issues
gonna,
are
they're in 2 different continents and there are no cell phones, so I don't know, carrier
Right.
pigeon.
I think we're heading towards a reality where Aelin's eventually going to start leading the rebellion, and I'm interested to see what side Kale and Dorian land on of that. I mean, I would hope they're supportive and like helping her, but I feel like their loyalties are going to be tested at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the hardest part with Kale was that either he's gonna follow the king or follow Dorian. And I think he is very fiercely loyal to Dorian. So as long as he can be on his side, then maybe that will coincide with whatever Aelin's doing.
Yeah, it's just teaching Kaol that everything is not black and white. Like, everything is a shade of gray. And, like, I'm sorry, but you are going to have to use your own moral compass to figure out which direction you go in. And I hope he makes the right call.
Well, I think this wraps up our recap episode. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you have any thoughts or theories that are similar to Brooke and Elena's, please let us know what you think. Next up, Brooke and Elena are going to read through chapter 22 of Heir of Fire. So please join us next time.
Apparently Elena
Everyone.
already has, so you guys better read
Yeah.
fast, because the next episode's going to come out real quick.
So excited.
Hey.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.